All right, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Good afternoon, everybody, or morning or evening, depending on where you are calling in from. My name is Peter Messmer, and I am the Director of Growth here at AddShoppers. And I'm really excited you're here today because you are going to learn a ton. We have a really awesome webinar prepared for you guys, and you're going to be learning about basically what is the most important part of your entire e-commerce website, so your checkout and your conversion. So that's why I'm really excited to kick this thing off and get this thing going. So go ahead and settle in and go ahead and remove all distractions so you can give us your full attention, because we have some really awesome content to share with you guys today. So a couple quick housekeeping notes before I go ahead and get started. Any questions that you guys have during this entire presentation, please feel free to use the GoToWebinar Q&A functionality to just drop your question in, and we'll probably hold all of those until the end. We have a dedicated section at the very end to answer all of your questions, so please do not hesitate to do that. And with that said, let's go ahead and get into it. So jump over here. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce the presenters that you guys are going to be hearing from today. So on the left is Chad Ledford. He is the Chief Revenue Officer and co-founder here at AddShoppers. And on the right is Jay Atkinson. He is the Director of e-commerce optimization at Acorn, who is one of our very best partners. And here's the agenda today, what we're going to be covering here. So I just did the quick introduction to the two speakers you'll be hearing from today, and then after that, so Jay from Acorn is going to be up first, and he's going to cover testing and optimization. So he's going to be telling you guys about basically how to build the bones of your e-commerce checkout flow and how to optimize that. And then after that, Chad is going to jump in and cover some marketing checkout campaigns that you can implement on top of your standard e-commerce flow to increase your conversion rates so that you're really making the most out of every single visitor that comes to your website. And then at the end, we'll wrap up with a couple final thoughts, and we'll go over the Q&A from everybody that submits a question throughout the webinar. So real quick, a little bit about AddShoppers before I hand it over to Jay. So we are an on-site marketing platform, and we help to track and optimize the shopper journey with our apps. So at the end of the day, we will help to increase your average revenue per visitor. And one of the really key things about that is we're able to launch marketing campaigns really quickly with no need to wait on things like IT development cycles or things like that. So you can get things going and test and iterate really quickly using our platform. We have a little over 10,000 users worldwide. You can see some of our brands here on the screen here at the bottom right. And that's a really quick introduction to AddShoppers. And I will go ahead and pass it over now to Jay to tell you a little bit about Acorn and take it away.
Thanks so much. I appreciate that, Peter. So Acorn, we are an e-commerce agency really focused on helping people design, develop, and optimize in the retail and brand space. We've been doing this for about 8 years now, and the amount of experience that we have here, we have probably over 100 years worth of experience in the building. And our focus has been primarily on Magento, but really we like working with retailers from every type of platform and really every type of industry. And our goal really is to deliver testing results and personalization results that are beyond what the average person is thinking about and the average person is working on, and really come up with some challenges that we can solve for you. As far as testing and optimization, we can move on to the next slide. We're going to talk a little bit about some best practices and results. We're also going to kind of talk about some best practices around just the checkout process in general and things you should do before you even get into testing. Now, those of you on the call that aren't doing a lot of testing, I want to kind of break down what optimization testing is. The idea is that you are testing an A versus a B, maybe even versus a C and D version of your checkout or of other pages on your site, and you're really looking for a lift either in conversion rate, revenue per visitor, average order value, really depending on what KPI is most important to your business, that's where your focus is going to be. Now, when talking about this, there's some different talking points that I kind of want to talk through the course of this conversation. First, I want to talk about checkout design, just design in general, and some of the things that you should be thinking about. Second, I want to talk about kind of a myth out there, which is checkout button testing and how many times that actually works and how many times it doesn't. Then I want to talk a little bit about mobile best practices and really around how the mobile experience, especially when it comes to checkout, is so much different, really around how the environment around your user is and how that really changes the way that they look at your checkout process. We'll also talk about social logging, data collection, of course, something that AddShoppers is really good at helping people get into that social login space. And then last, we'll just talk about overall flow, thinking through that overall checkout flow and things to be aware of. So getting into design, one of the things that is very important to think about in this space is practicality versus beautification. Now, when you're building a site, and every person I talk to, especially stakeholders, their interest is almost always focused on, they want a beautiful site. They want a site that people say, wow, that was really cool. That was really interesting. And that makes sense in certain areas of your site, especially higher up the funnel in the areas where they're looking at products and different categories. But when you get to the checkout, you don't want to be too much focused on beauty. You really want to focus on good, clean user interface, making sure that you're effectively moving people from place to place. So form fields being able to be seen and available, buttons being very clearly labeled, having messaging that really ties to the information there. And it's not a bad thing to throw in a little bit of witty humor and conversation. You want to make sure that it's the same as if a person was walking into a physical store and having a conversation with a sales associate right there at the desk for the final transaction. You want to make sure that they feel comfortable, that they're ready to make this purchase, and that they enjoy the process. And up here on the screen, you can kind of see an example of for one of our clients where we had an initial kind of beautiful design that we thought, well, this is really cool looking. But what we found is that by testing a variation that really lined things out and made it very specific for folks, it was so much more successful, and it made them more comfortable in making their purchase. And simple things like calling out messaging really helps out in that way. Now, when talking about checkout buttons, this is the misnomer that I hear in A/B testing constantly. Well, let's test a different color of button. Let's test a different text on the button. Well, checkout button testing, while it's yielded some of the most interesting results in the space, it's such a small margin. Of the hundreds of tests that we've run here at Blue Acorn, we've only had one or two that have actually been winners for colors of the button or the verbiage on a button. So if you look at hundreds, you're 1% of the chance that you're going to actually move the needle by changing the color. It makes you want to think, okay, what more impactful things can I do? What things can I focus on that are going to be a bigger win? And when you're looking at what you're doing for testing, you really want to look for impactful changes, things that are going to change the way you do things at the office and the way you do things and how you present to your customer. You also want to change things in the way the customer feels about you and how they react to the information that's there. So when talking through that, let's talk about it a little bit in the mobile standpoint of what mobile best practices are. And there's kind of the idea that you need to focus not just on the idea that you have mobile, but there's all kinds of different screen sizes out there and all kinds of different environments that people are in when they're using those screens. Mobile conversion rates have been traditionally low from what we've seen since mobile kind of popped into the scene around 2008. And part of that is because of the context that somebody is actually in at that moment. Think about yourself. When you're pulling up a mobile phone, you're more than likely out and about. Maybe you're at lunch, maybe you're out shopping, and the ability to stop and focus and enter in a bunch of form fields is not really what you're thinking at that moment. So you really do need to think about screen size of what you're showing on that screen. As we saw that example before, you want to make sure that as many form fields are available, but as much relevant information is available at the moment, and people don't feel like they're filling out a huge long tax form by the time they get through your checkout process. Now, the other thing you want to think beyond screen size is you want to think about the keyboard. So again, when you're filling out a form, you're going to have to use a keyboard, and most devices today, unless you're still using a BlackBerry, require you to have some sort of virtual keyboard on the device. that takes up space, and especially in this example, you can see in landscape mode, you're only going to see one or two things in place. You're not really going to get good visibility there. So a couple things to keep in mind is, one, make sure that you have JavaScript or HTML set up so that you can focus in on the field that's right at hand at that moment. The second thing is to use that virtual keyboard for what it's for. So there is a lot of things you can do as far as testing out different keyboard types, especially depending on the form field you're using. If you're dealing with checkout and you're actually in the credit card, try using the number keyboard for the actual credit card information, making it simpler for your user to actually interact with that piece. Now, the other thing that you want to think about is registration. So when you get somebody on a mobile device, quite often somebody's going to drop out halfway through. No matter how simple you make those form fields, people are going to get frustrated. They may just decide, you know what, I don't have time, I'm going to move on to my next thing. And so you want to try to gather as much information up front and as soon as possible so that you can get back and touch with them again via email or via some sort of retargeting campaign to get them back to that add to cart. By doing that, you're able to really make things move faster. Now, also in line with really thinking that through, you want to make what registration information is there very simplistic. So instead of requiring registration, make it a soft registration. Pull all the data you need, get their email address, and at the end say, you know what, just so you can get your order information, please enter a password here. That way your order information is secure and you can reach that through an account area later. Again, it's all about messaging and it's all about how simple can you make it for the user. Now, when it comes to simplicity, one of the things to think about is social login, because that really can make your registration process a lot simpler for a certain demographic of users. Not all users are going to use social login, and depending on your demographic, you may have a smaller subset of folks that are really going to use this. But that information for you, even if it is a small subset, is very useful. Facebook gives you a lot of data collection and data information that's beyond what you're going to pull from your Google Analytics information or other third-party analytics sources that you have directly on your site. So you can start understanding those who purchase and retain accounts with you, who they are and what they act like. And that, of course, tied with something from AddShoppers, allows you to better market to them, better interact with them, and really give them that social love that customers really are interested in. And survey after survey shows they expect that. Now, other things to kind of think about, though, is how are you going to propose that? What types of options are you going to throw out there? Are you going to put out a NASCAR slide of different types of sign-in options? If we continue on to the next slide, you'll kind of see this on someone's screen. Here, there's 5 different options plus a very specific one for that company. And it's great to give people choice, but there is this idea of analysis paralysis. If they see too many options and they don't know what to go for, they may end up just dropping out. You want to make sure that you give them the ability to select something that will work well for them, but you also want to make sure that you don't overload them with too much choice. So look at your users, figure out based on email addresses and what you've got in your email roles, who are the type of users you're getting? Do you have a lot of Gmail accounts? Do you have people that are interacting with Facebook and getting a lot of referral traffic through that? Maybe that's going to be the best sign-in to put in. And again, using some data, you can really identify the best piece. I would say also, don't forget places like PayPal and Amazon. Those are, in a way, social logins, and they're ways for people to easier check out with you. Now, when it comes to checkout flow in general, you want to make it dead simple. Now, over the last, I would say the last 5 years, the checkout flow has started to stabilize more and more. There's expected fields, there's expected things that need to happen there. And with folks like Baymart and others who have evaluated these checkout processes, especially against the top retailers in the space, there's a really good understanding of what things need to be there and don't need to be there. You don't need to be truly revolutionary in the checkout process. You want to, again, make it simple for your user, make the user interaction easy to follow through, and you want to reduce as much clutter as possible. All that market research information that you want to ask, male, versus female gender information, asking them about their favorite hobbies, what magazines they read, all these things are great information for your marketing department, But checkout process is not where you want to ask that. You want to allow them to simply check out and move forward. And so look through the amount of data you have and start peeling back. Try to make sure that you can simplify that process as much as you can so that you don't have so much information you're trying to gather from your user. The other thing to kind of think about is one page versus multiple page checkout. Now, that question often comes up from my customers. Should I go with a one-page checkout or a multi-page checkout? In reality, most one-page checkouts are really multi-page. It just looks like you're on the same page. And while single-click checkout that Amazon has patented is one of the best options as far as quick and easy checkout, but one page doesn't necessarily make it that simple. And really it depends, again, on your demographic and what your users want on what actually fits best there. So I would say when you're going to make this decision, look at your quantitative data. Look at who the users that are coming to your site are, the amount of form fields you need to have them enter, and how simple you can make the process. And if you can make it simple with a multi-page checkout, do that. Don't feel that a one-page checkout is going to be the solution to fix all your woes. The other thing to keep in mind is that more information in the checkout process isn't necessarily better. We ran a test not too long ago for one of our customers by just displaying the checkout information directly there in the cart. And we thought, by a hypothesis, this is going to be a big winner. Unfortunately, it was very marginal win, 0.49%. Customers didn't really need that confidence at that point. They knew what they were purchasing, they knew what they needed to do, and they really didn't need that additional distraction. It didn't help. And so in these situations, give information that's the right time. And sometimes figuring out that customer journey through checkout is simply talking through what are the physical interactions to take the information I need to deliver this, and what are the simplest ways to do this, and where do I think my customers are going to be most confused. Now, the last question that often comes up is that you start seeing either just your payment page or maybe even your whole checkout being offloaded and being handled by a third party. A lot of people have talked about this as kind of a good idea to do. Offload my checkout process to PayPal or Amazon or some other card provider and let them deal with it. And that is probably a good idea for most of those who have a smaller set of users that are actually using their brand or purchasing through their brand. Now, they can have some larger expense when using these types of services. And the other thing that can happen is customers may be confused about the interaction there in comparison to everything else they've done on the site. But when you don't have to take on the risk of dealing with thieves or dealing with fraud by allowing that to be offloaded to a third party, that can really help when you look at your business plan and you look, how much do I really want to be responsible for when it comes to risk? So these are some of the things that you can kind of think about as you're thinking about testing and really improving your checkout flow. I'm going to pass it over to Chad, where he's going to talk a little more about ways you can really optimize specifically around promotional campaigns and other things you can do in that space.
Thanks, Jay. That was really awesome. So this is Peter again. Just wanted to interject here real quick. If you guys did have any questions from anything that Jay covered, please do not forget to get those in now so that we can go over those at the very end after Chad has finished his section. And with that said, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Chad now.
Awesome. So what I'm going to go through is more kind of specific campaigns that you'll be able to run on your actual checkout page. So we're actually going to dive into 6 campaigns that we've run across a few of our clients. The first thing that we're going to look at is more of a general cart page abandonment strategy. Then we're going to look at some personalized strategies and things that you can do to really start tailoring that one-to-one type of marketing and what the results of that end up being. After that, we're going to take a look at cart value-based campaigns, and then we'll look at some mobile, social, and then kind of a bonus one that we're going to look at towards the end is actually post-purchase. So being able to use your checkout flow and your checkout success page to get engagement from customers once they've actually placed an order with you. So the first thing is going to be something that you're all probably pretty familiar with, but it's just sort of a general cart page abandonment strategy. And before we dive into a couple of these specific strategies, there's several reasons why shoppers typically abandon their cart. The first one is sometimes they want to shop around. They want to make sure that they're getting the best price and that they're making the best decision for whatever it is they're about to order. So given that, a lot of customers like to go look for a coupon code. So once they get to the cart page, they abandon to go to Google or something like that and end up on a site like Retail Me Not or one of those guys. And I'll show you some strategies that you can use to prevent that. Some get distracted. Maybe their kids are throwing something at their head and they're dodging it, so they get distracted by whatever's going on in life. And then others abandon because the shipping costs might be too high. Maybe they haven't hit one of those shipping thresholds that you have set. So here's an example of a client, shabbyapple.com. So it's a woman's clothing boutique, and before running this campaign, they didn't really have a cart abandonment strategy in place. So you can see down at the bottom, they have a box there that says have a coupon code or have a promo code. And what usually happens is as soon as a customer sees that, they're going to go to Google to look for one because they don't have one. I know I do it as a consumer. If I don't have a coupon code, I'm at least going to go search for one real quick. So what we did here, and you've seen this in the form of abandonment or some sort of exit type of a strategy, but once a customer sees that box and then they go to leave the site, there is technology to show customers like that promotions to give them an offer before they leave the site. A couple things happen here. One, whenever you show the customer that offer, you're at least capturing their email address and you're getting them to perform an action to get that coupon code. They're also given the code directly on the site so that they don't have to go back and wait for an email to get delivered. And then the third thing is they're given that code right there so they can just paste it in the box and then continue down that checkout path. So some of the results that we typically see with Shabby Apple, we saw a 34% increase in their conversion rate. So we were able to save about a third of the carts that were getting ready to abandon that type of a checkout process. Another example here, if you don't do any type of discounting or promotions or things like that, really the key is to have a conversation with that customer before they actually go to leave your store. So instead of showing a coupon code, you can say things like, hey, do you need help? Click here to start a live chat, or tap here on your phone to give us a call, or whatever other action you think would be really helpful for that customer before they abandon their cart. You can start to show them messaging that's appropriate. The one that we just looked at, the control group that we ran with them was converting around 28%. So customers who saw nothing and then they would go to leave were converting around 28%. But with that type of a live chat functionality, they saw about a 14% lift in their cart conversion rate just by asking customers to start a conversation before they actually go to leave the store. Another strategy that we're going to take a look at here is tying in personalization. As Jay mentioned, you get a lot of really rich data with things like social login. You've invested really heavily in your CRM and capturing all this rich customer data, but if you can't make that actionable and you can't deploy things on your site, then there's not a whole lot of use for it. So the reasons that you usually want to personalize, especially during the checkout process, is one, it's going to help increase your brand loyalty. Customers are going to be able to have more of a relationship with you instead of being treated as an individual or treated as a cohort or as a group of people. You can really start to have more one-to-one messaging with your customers. You're also going to see higher performance by layering in all of the first-party data that you're collecting. And one of the things that I think is most important is being able to create wow moments. I think most of us as retailers have heard stories about how companies like Zappos would send out gift baskets because wives had to return their shoes whenever their husbands passed away, or being able to really create moments that make you stand out as a brand. The ability to do that is what's really going to set you apart at the end of the day. So a couple ways that you can do that during the checkout process. Old Time Candy. Here's sort of a general motto that they had. So customers would add to their cart. If they go to leave, then they're able to save 10% off on their next order. But once you start integrating things like social login into this type of an experience, now whenever customers go to leave the site, you can use their name, you can use their Facebook picture, and you can start tailoring promotions based off of demographic data like male, female, age group, location, or any of the other really rich data that you as a brand are collecting. And then by having these type of one-to-one promotions, we see anywhere from a 15 to a 25% increase in the overall conversion rate. So Old Time Candy, with that type of a modal, they're able to capture over 600% more emails once a customer sees their name and their Facebook picture inside of the modal. They get higher opt-in rates from that. Also, the conversion rate on it is about 16% higher than a more generic thing that a lot of customers seem to be getting used to, and they're just starting to close out instantly. Another great strategy is cart value. Benefits of cart value is, one, you're going to have more control over your margin. You can have more targeted offers around free shipping thresholds, and you can also get a little more aggressive with your higher cart values, which is obviously going to boost revenue and ultimately your bottom line. So here's a leading apparel retailer that we work with, and you can see up here at the top, if you look over on the left side, I have a shopping cart of $39. And if you look over on the right side, it's a shopping cart of $99. Up at the top of the site, and a lot of retailers do this, you'll have some sort of a free shipping promotion if you spend over, in this example, it's kind of small, but it says $60. So on the left, because my cart is under $60, I only really want this polo that's in my cart, so I'm not necessarily ready to complete the conversion. But over on the right, I'm ordering 5 polos, and the cart value is over $99. So what you're able to do is show individual promotions based off of that type of cart value. So for them, any cart between $0 and $15, they don't really make money on those things, and they can't offer an incentive there, so we're not showing any promotion to that group. The second tier is, I believe, $15 to $50. So if they're really close to getting the free shipping offer, then we're making the customer aware of that so that they continue shopping. And then if they've already qualified for free shipping, if your cart value is over a certain amount, they're able to offer things like a 10% off promotion. So the results from this one, again, by having these type of triggered promotions, they actually saw a 116% increase in their conversion rate. So the control group that didn't see any of these type of promotions was converting at 3.29%, which in and of itself is a really great conversion rate. But by layering in these type of promotions, they more than doubled the results that they were seeing from their conversion rate over on the right. So 7.09% is now the standard conversion rate that they have for customers that are going through the checkout process. So next up, let's take a look at mobile. Obviously, I would imagine most of you on the call, you're probably seeing about 40 to 60% of your traffic is coming through mobile now. So it's a really hot topic, and a lot of retailers are still trying to figure it out. But the benefits of really focusing on mobile, there's a huge early adopter opportunity right now. You can spend less on the pay-per-click side. You can spend less on media buys, and ultimately you're able to acquire customers at a much lower rate if you're targeting mobile devices, because most people either don't know how to track a mobile conversion, or they're not really able to get a customer converted. So if you can figure it out, if you can break into that, there's a lot of opportunity there. The conversion rates are obviously lower, so by having a higher conversion rate on mobile, it is going to give you a competitive advantage there. And really starting to treat mobile, you either need to pick a side. You either need to say that mobile is where people go to browse, or mobile is where people go to buy. And once you make a commitment to either one, then you can really start to optimize what's happening on mobile. So here's another client that we work with, the Violet Vixen. They were struggling with lower mobile conversion rates, and kind of a similar situation. Customers, they just kind of browsed around on mobile and really started to sort of search around, but they couldn't kind of get people to add to their cart or continue on with their conversions. So what we did with them was set up a mobile exclusive offer. So this was an offer they could only get if they came from their mobile device. So anyone who came to desktop would not see this type of an offer, but they essentially gave customers 10% off if they came to their store on a mobile device. And with that, they saw a 10% increase in their conversion rate on mobile devices, but I think more importantly, they were able to capture 50% more email addresses because they had a mobile-specific campaign or mobile-specific targeting. So once you have their email address on mobile, then you're able to try to win them back when they're at their desktop, and you at least have a chance to continue remarketing to that customer. So one that is really underutilized is taking advantage of social, and with that, once you start integrating social into the checkout flow and the checkout process, the first thing that you're able to do is improve your overall data collection. The more you know about your customers, the better you can start treating them, and the more personalized you can make the shopping experience. There's also opportunity to drive referral traffic by taking advantage of social integrations, and then you can also get customers to start performing different social actions in exchange for some of these type of incentives that we've been talking about. So an example of this, Lost Golf Balls. They sell lost golf balls, but they were losing shoppers that were going to the checkout page. So they were going to the cart page. Again, kind of a similar situation. They had a discount code box down there, but customers were starting to browse around and they couldn't really get them past that hump of going from the cart and then continuing down the checkout path. So instead of just offering a coupon code in exchange for an email or some of the more similar promotions that we kind of looked at a second ago, they wanted to tie in a social offering. So down below you can see that orange button below the discount codes box, and what it says is share for a coupon. So now if a customer doesn't have a code and they see that box, they have the ability to share out on Facebook or email whatever they have in their cart to their friends or share it out on Twitter. And whenever they do that, they're given an exclusive discount in exchange for that type of a sharing activity. So as soon as they implemented this, within 30 days, they saw a 9% increase in their total revenue, and they saw over 1,000% increase in the amount of social traffic that was actually coming back to their store. So whenever customers shared out, they were able to capture their email address, get them to share on their Facebook wall, and then in exchange for that, the customer was given a coupon code directly on that shopping cart page. So the bonus one that I mentioned, the post-purchase, a couple strategies that you can do here. One, so before we hop into specific strategies, the reason that you want to focus on post-purchase is because, one, 30% of all sharing and customer referrals happens post-purchase. Either customers want to brag about the brand that they just ordered from or get confirmation that it was a really good idea, but people really like to talk about things that they just bought. Aside from adult diapers, if it's apparel or some of the other things like furniture, I think you have a pretty good shot at getting customers to talk about you. So number two here, it's also going to help increase the lifetime value of a customer because they're starting to engage with you on a deeper level. Instead of just placing a purchase, now they're starting to become brand advocates and talk about you publicly. And again, customers really like to brag about what they just ordered. So a quick example of this, client Mission Cute, they had nothing on their post-purchase page. So this might be similar to your post-purchase page where you just say, thank you for your order, here's your order ID, and print your receipt. You as the brand marketer, that's not doing you a whole lot of favors. So if you start to set up things like a referral program or things like a purchase sharing program where customers can talk about your brand, that's a really great opportunity to engage with your customers and get them to perform an action after they've gone through that checkout flow. So you can see down below they're asking, hey, have you joined our Refer Friend program yet? And this shows either to customers who are coming back to track their order, customers who just placed a purchase, or customers who are updating their subscriptions and things like that. So the results of this, they saw 20% of their traffic now comes from those type of post-purchase engagement campaigns, and ultimately it increased the amount of customer referrals or customers that are signing up for their Refer a Friend program.
All right, so this is Peter again. So we're going to go ahead and take Q&A right now. So again, if you do have any questions, then please go ahead and get them in now while we're doing the Q&A session so that we can get to what's on your mind. And I'm going to go through here and start pulling up some of the questions that came through here over the past couple of minutes. All right, so first up, I have one for Chad. So what's the recommended number of sources to offer social login is part one, and part two is, does offering more slow down the site performance?
Yeah, so I'll start with the second part of that. It's offering more doesn't slow down the site. It only loads from those third parties like Facebook or PayPal and Google whenever a customer clicks on the button. So it doesn't actually load any scripts from the third-party networks until they click the sign-in button. So it's absolutely not going to slow you down the more social login sources that you provide. As far as the recommended number, from all of the analytics that we've captured on our side, 80% of all social logins are either going to be sign in with Facebook or sign in with Google. That does change. If you're B2B, then sign in with LinkedIn is a really great option. If you're a discount retailer and you run a lot of deals and things like that, you might also want to consider sign in with PayPal and sign in with Amazon. But for the most part, you're going to get the majority of social logins from Facebook and Google, and then the other ones you might want to consider testing those to see how many customers are actually going to use them or not.
All right, next up I have a question that came in for Jay here. So I guess this is referring back to the part about the checkout buttons. So it seems like there should be some fairly standard best practices around this. So what are the checkout buttons or options that do perform the highest?
Well, there's a couple things. One is you want to have a pretty clear call to action. So you want to have the color be something that is present enough that you can see it. Ghost buttons, gray buttons, those things don't work well. And then as far as text, you want to be fairly descriptive without being too verbose in what you're saying. So if you're on the shipping page and billing is next, continue to billing, next step, things that tell people they're moving forward in the process, and make sure that you're making them feel like they're making forward progress by clicking on that button.
Awesome. So next up is going to be, let me read through, this one's kind of a long one. So we get a lot of sticker shock because we ship large mannequins and our prices are low, but our shipping prices are high. It never really kills the value of the purchase, but affects the user buying. So there's no way to to lower the shipping costs. What's a clever way to minimize shipping shock? This looks like a good one for Chad here.
Yeah, I think what I've seen a couple retailers do, if you're using the list price, so if you're pulling in directly from the UPS API or FedEx or some of those, you're probably getting whatever the real-time rates are, which helps you control things on your side. But a lot of retailers, they'll set up what they would call like a standard shipping or express shipping or premium shipping, and you have a predetermined flat amount for each one of those. So maybe your standard shipping is $50, and then they can start to upgrade their shipping from there to $100 or $150. But most customers, the sticker shock really comes in when there's no transparency into what they're actually going to be charged. So by having some of those flat rate tiers and looking at the average of what it's going to cost to ship across the board to various different customers, you're going to have a segment of customers that always upgrades their shipping, and then you're going to have some that always go for that cheapest option. But the key is really to give people options so that they feel like it's their decision whenever they choose whatever that checkout option is going to be.
All right, next question here from the audience. So this looks like another good one for Chad to answer. So should I allow guest purchase or force registration in the checkout? Yeah. So guest purchases give us the same information but cause problems with marketing and vouchers. That's actually a good one for both Chad and Jay. I'll go ahead and let Chad go first, and then Jay can chime in after.
Yeah, so I would say pretty much all customers are going to want the option of a guest checkout. The only way that I've ever seen it work where you require some sort of a registration is if you also require registration to be able to shop. So if you have some sort of like a deal site, or if they feel like they need to be a member to be able to join in and actually shop around, doing it on the checkout probably isn't a great idea. You almost always want to give them some sort of a guest checkout option. But in general, for them to be able to interact with the brand, if you lock down the entire shopping experience, I think you can get away with it there. But if you do it on the checkout page, it's just going to hurt your conversion rates in the long haul.
And adding to that, I would say there's a couple key things there. One is, why do you have to call a guest checkout? Just make it checkout. And why do you really have to tell them that they're registering? Just soft enter register through the course of the checkout process. Now, if you find that they are already a user, Apple did a great job with this a few years ago and still continues it, where once you put your email address in, they go back, check their user files, and see if there's an Apple ID attached to that email address, and pops up and says, hey, actually, we already got you in the system. Just enter in your password, or if you forgot your password, you can either continue on or go search for that. So ways to just kind of simplify that process. They don't even notice it, because the term guest checkout is a great industry term. But customers really don't want to be thought as a guest. They want to be thought of as a loyal customer.
All right, sounds good. So next up, this is a good one, again, for you, Jay. So do trust or privacy badges improve conversion rates, or are they pretty much worthless now?
So this is another one that it depends on the demographic. We've tested this on quite a few different verticals and different sites. And what we've seen is, depending on what site it is and the type of demographic that's there, especially younger demographics, they don't really look for that or expect that. Now, older demographics and those that are really looking for those Better Business Bureau or lock signs and pieces along those lines, it is a good piece to put in place and can actually help raise awareness that this checkout process is solid, secure, and you want to make sure that you can play up to that and pay that off. But I would say it's not a clear fix across the board that you should do it. I would really look and determine, does your demographic expect that in your checkout process?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Next up, here's a quick one for Chad. So how effective has the discount offer on the floating share bar been, and can or should this be used in conjunction with the checkout share for coupon code offer?
So once you implement the share for coupon, think of it more as an alternative to just asking for an email for a coupon code. So a lot of retailers, whenever you go to their site, you usually get some sort of thing like, hey, join our newsletter and you get XYZ promotion. If you take whatever that promotion is, and instead of giving an email, you ask the customer to share out your brand, whenever they share it out, you still capture their email. So you're still building your list from this, but you're getting them to also share out and create that brand awareness for you. So there's a couple ways to measure effectiveness. One is email captures, so you still capture email. Another is incremental traffic driven back to the brand, which you're going to be able to help out with. And then the third way is the conversion rate increase, which can vary anywhere from 5 to 15%, depending on how aggressive you make the offer.
All right, next up, here's one that I want to get both input from both Jay and Chad. So here's the question. Do you think money off incentives work best, or if I were to offer a tip sheet or non-financial based incentive instead? So is it more useful for the buyer to gain knowledge about what they're buying? So it's basically, should you offer a financial money off incentive during the checkout, or more of a content-based offer? I'll let you tackle that one first, Jay.
Well, again, I feel like I'm a broken record when I say demographic, but it really depends on the products you're selling. If you're very promotional driven as a company and that is what customers expect from you, you're probably going to have better success that way. If you're selling more complex and probably a larger price ticket as far as the overall cart value and everything else, then look at doing something along the lines of information or pieces around that. We found that if you start doing too many promotions, you start making people numb to them, and they start trying to game the system, as it were. So kind of shifting that up and playing back and forth with trying out both sides is not a bad idea.
Yeah, I'm with Jay on this one. It's really going to depend on your demographic and if you are comfortable with whatever that strategy is. If you start training customers to rely on coupon codes, they're almost never going to complete an order with you if they don't have a coupon code. So offering things like free shipping or upgraded shipping or access to VIP programs or loyalty points or any number of incentives that don't rely on a discount. It's more about just your overall marketing strategy and determining what incentives you can or can't offer and then executing on this.
All right, cool. Next up, so this question is from someone who says, we are a B2B business and would like to capture our customers' industry information at some point in their shopping experience. Is this best left for post-purchase surveys rather than during their sign-up or checkout? I would like to hear Jay and Chad on this one. I'll let you go ahead and start off on this again, Jay.
So I've worked with a lot of folks on drip campaigns along this line. Really, post-purchase is the most useful. You can start figuring out, especially B2B, I've dealt with folks that sell things to multiple industries, and so they can kind of tell a starting of an inkling of which business this company or this customer is coming in from, and to kind of have an idea there. But slow drip campaigns along those lines of requesting a little bit more information, a little bit more information, a little bit more information becomes less intrusive to the overall user. However, the other interesting thing on this is because it's a B2B purchase, people do expect that you're going to ask for more details. And if you're allowing or offering up specific contract pricing or benefits based on the size of business or the type of business, that can be another reason to, again, if you're being able to pay off the idea of gathering more information by doing that, then you're ending up in a better spot.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. On the B2B side, if you throw a big survey or a form at someone that you have no relationship with, the odds of them filling that out are going to be slim to none. So it's really more about capturing those data points over time. There's a lot of different ways you can do that while they're shopping or once you know who the individual is. And then post-purchase, so once they've actually completed a conversion with you, that is going to open you up to be able to ask them more direct questions or get more information because they've already committed to the relationship with you at that point, and they're probably going to be more open to sharing additional information. But you do want to kind of build out that profile over time, and that's really where CRM kind of comes into play so that you can start capturing all of that data and learning more about them as they learn about you and continue through the checkout process.
All right, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, guys. So that was the last question, so we're going to go ahead and shut off the Q&A portion. So I'd like to, again, thank everybody for showing up. I hope you really got a lot of value out of the webinar today. Couple points before you jump off that I just wanted to reiterate again. Saw a couple questions earlier in the Q&A about the recording and will that be available afterwards? So the answer is yes, we are recording the webinar and we will have the recorded version over if you want to watch it again or share it with someone else out either later today or early tomorrow morning. So you definitely don't have to worry about that. So thanks again. So to Jay and Chad for sharing all this information with us today. So a couple things, follow-up opportunities. If you are interested in learning a little bit more about us, so over here at AddShoppers, the best thing to do is join a live demo. We host them every week. You can see the link for that in the bottom left. Just type that in and you'll see the live demo schedule. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about Blue Acorn, just go to blueacorn.com and you can learn more about their development and testing and optimization services. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and we'll close it off now. So thanks again to everybody for showing up, and we will get the recording out very shortly.